Greetings, everybody, and welcome to FileMaker Pro User Group Meeting, Dallas Chapter. I'm Taylor Sharpe. I'm the chapter coordinator. Greg Price is our other co-chapter coordinator. He's not here yet, but probably will be here shortly. And we're glad to have everybody here. December 2021, getting all ready for the holidays. So Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, all those good things. So we're going to have a presentation today, and I'm going to be not only the master ceremony, but the presenter. So you get stuck listening to me again. So good to see all of you here, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. So let's see, screen share. Okay, hopefully you guys can see my screen. Since we are in the middle of the holidays, I did have to start out with this. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But in lieu of the season, we have I will drive trucks here or there. I will drive trucks everywhere. Yes, I do have a cat under my hat of my 59 Mac. So anyway, I thought that was cute. That's our latest holiday meme off of Facebook that I found entertaining. Has absolutely nothing to do with FileMaker, but anyway. Okay, moving back into our topic today. Our topic today is parcel shipments and tracking in FileMaker. And while we have, this is a general topic about them, it really more is kind of an intro into why would someone want to have FileMaker talk to something else, and what are the tools that we use to make that happen. So hopefully the term API is not completely foreign to most of you, but we'll look it up here. Basically, let's see, API, application programming interface. And basically, this is a way for you have different applications are able to talk to other applications and to share. And FileMaker, of course, has had an API built in to let it share its information out to other people. And that's very useful if you need some like web service to call data from FileMaker. But more often than not, I find in FileMaker solutions, we're going the opposite direction. We're trying to make a connection somewhere else to bring information back into FileMaker. So we're going to make use of these APIs, and APIs are, you have to have a method of communicating and a language for communicating. So while application programming interfaces cover a lot of languages and interfaces and ways of communicating, we're going to only look at one particular method that is that has basically become the de facto web standard of what all's happening right now. So in the web world, we're communicating via the internet or the wide area network. TCP/IP is how things are connecting, and we're using a method called RESTful API, which is basically how web pages work. So if you go to a web page, you are in essence making an API call to, for example, Apache or IIS, and it's sending back information to your web browser, and your web browser is rendering that to see that. So you've been using an API all along. Everybody uses it whenever they go to the web. So APIs really are nothing new to you. You just didn't realize you were using them. So however, what we want to do is get a little more granular than just putting a web URL in and going to a domain. We want to make this information that we submit be more specific in a language of what we want, as well as get the information back and parse it in a way that we can use in FileMaker. You know, in a web browser, of course, you would parse that into HTML for, you know, visual viewing, but in a database, we're often wanting to parse data into something that we can, you know, use for our, you know, customers' needs. So My first experiences in getting involved with APIs, at least in the FileMaker world, had to do with the UPS parcel shipment. And while we're going to talk a little bit about this APIs, I'm going to also say we're just going to look at the tracking end of this. I will say that these APIs involve a whole lot more than what we're going to look at. And but I'm only touching on what is a common need that we can easily solve ourselves without wading all the way into the river and getting deep into it. I will mention, while I'm going to show you some stuff about parcel shipments here today, I will also give a shout out to NRG Soft that does the NRG FileMaker solution that lets FileMaker do all kinds of parcel shipments, and everything from talking to the zebra labels to barcoding and a whole bunch of things that are way beyond what we do. So if this interests you, but you wanted to get more into than just tracking of parcels, there is a solution out there that does it all, and that is fairly reasonably priced, that you can get from NRG Soft. I like those guys a lot. So, but being that a lot of people just want to be able to track, for example, I'm a small business. I'm going to ship something out. I'm going to put my tracking number in, and I'd like to know when my customer gets it delivered to them and who signed for it and stuff like that. That's a real common thing that people need without getting a full-blown development parcel shipment solution like NRG. So, and that's what we're going to kind of look at today. How can I do that real cheap and easily, because FileMaker is set up to do that. FileMaker's tool for talking to these APIs is called the insert from URL script step. So it's, in many ways, it's like going to a web browser, and up at the top where you put the domain name in, that's in essence what you're doing. When you do the insert from URL, you're inserting a URL, and we have some additional tools to let you ask the question more in depth, but that's really all you're doing, and then you're getting information back. So of course, many people are familiar with, you can just go to ups.com and you can put a tracking number in, and you can do that right here without doing any FileMaker insert from URL. It will give you the answer right here in a web page. And I will tell you, way back in the day, before we had insert from URL, what I would do is I would go to FileMaker, and we would web scrape this information from out of the HTML, and that was all fine and dandy until they updated their web page, which ended up being more often than you would think, and the fragility of keeping track of when someone will change their web page, what a nightmare that was. But there were people, when there was no other way to do it, it was kind of a cool solution. So, but we want to do better now that we've got FileMaker and insert from URL. And so what I did is I created a couple of templates to do these things. Now, what we are, I'm not going to show you yet, but I will show you in a little bit. If you're going to work with an API, you need to know how to talk to the API. And so every API is unique out there. There is not one API that, if you understand one API, it doesn't mean you understand any other one. So how they set it up is very unique from API to API. And so very importantly is how well they document the API. I can tell you a number of nightmares of public APIs that are not well documented. They say they'll do something when they don't, or if they do it, it does it not in the way that they said it would in their original documentation, or their documentation was for version 1 and version 2 is out now and they don't have any documentation for it, and you're just flying by your seat of your pants and hoping that you'll get what you want, but not being sure. And of course, customers love when you can't be reliable on that. But been there, done that. I will say the better ones, UPS and FedEx, have pretty good documentation to look at it. In fact, we will look over here real quick. Here's the FedEx API catalog, and you'll notice They have a catalog of a number of different APIs, from the authorization that everybody has to do. But if you want to validate an address, search locations, end of day, close the API, global trading, open ship, pickup requests, postal validation, there are all kinds of things. Way down at the bottom is the one that most everybody I know, or at least these small businesses are wanting to use, is the track API. So this is where you go and you click on the docs, and this tells you everything you need to know about how to track a document. It gives you the examples, and so you come down here, and this is the good API documentation you'll see out here will have examples like this, where it shows you on the left what you need to do, and then it gives you examples over here on the right. And both UPS and FedEx do that. And that they will also show you when you have bad requests, examples of failures. So it's not only how to succeed at doing things, but also how to handle failures. And the FedEx API does a good job of this. And so what I've done is I've made a template, a FileMaker template that uses this information and does that all in FileMaker. And so we already have a template, but you could just go right here to this documentation and you can put it right in FileMaker. Now, I will tell you, FileMaker is not actually the best tool for testing that something works. It's designed, if you know what you're doing and you have the questions right and all the things it needs to know, the encoding is right, and every little weird thing you can think of is correct, FileMaker is good at that point. However, if you need to test APIs to see, is this working? What if I try this or do something different? There's another tool out there called Postman. Here's Postman. Postman. This lets you make RESTful API calls, and it helps you do it. And it basically lets you test to see that things working. So what I usually do when I was developing my templates, I went over here to Postman and I created them in these different solutions here. This API for FedEx, but you can see I've got APIs from Avalar, for over AthenaNet, PayPal, JLL. There are a whole bunch of them, but it's nice. You can come over here and you can do these, and it will test your responses. You can put your parameters and your headers and your bodies and URL in here, and it's a much easier tool for testing things. So if you're going to do much API stuff, you'll probably want Postman, and even Dennis will like it because the price is right. It's free, right, Dennis?
Yeah, but if you permit me, when you're ready to get started showing it, I want to make a quick comment for everybody who would consider doing this.
Okay, well, we're in Postman, so if your comments about Postman?
Well, my comment in general is about very often if you have a client who is reluctant to pay you to do all the extra work that may be involved in integrating these shipping solutions with FileMaker, if they do any kind of order processing involved in shipping, you can show them how the cost of paying you to get this done will pay for itself. If they are currently using one of the computers that are provided to them by UPS or FedEx, and they have that computer in their shipping department, and they have a typical employee in the shipping department who maybe has a high school diploma, it's very common that the shipments go out to the wrong address because they're not typing accurately. They don't understand the difference between Mississippi and Michigan and Missouri. And what happens then is UPS or FedEx will charge you, the shipper, for the package to come back. And then usually when you reship it to the correct address, you end up paying more because the customer is upset and they want it shipped faster. So you can show a business owner how the cost of integrating their FileMaker database for the order processing will put the information into the FedEx system without errors.
Something else along those lines, if you are working out your contract with FedEx or UPS, if you have a large volume of shipments, FedEx and UPS will both pay the developer, AKA me, to build the solution that fixes that, or they'll pay for NRG if you want the whole whole bailiwick. So I have both my main big customers that use it have NRG, and both of those, one uses UPS and one uses FedEx, and both of them paid not only for the energy development software, but they also paid for the computer. So, but that's also dependent on your shipping a lot. So, you know, everything is always negotiable, but just be aware that FedEx and UPS are very familiar with high volume shippers. They will pay for their clients to hire a developer like you or me to you know, make a solution that works or integrates things, and that is often included in their contracts. And that's not something unusual to make a request and see that they will do. Now, they have limits of what they'll do on it, and a lot of it depends on how much your shipping is. But yes, I've been paid indirectly through UPS and FedEx to get these things working.
It's been a few years since I've done it, Taylor, but at the time, the UPS people were trying to get the customer to integrate using the UPS ship software. And because FileMaker connects with ODBC, that it really wasn't too difficult to do that. But this is a more modern way of doing it. And obviously you can do more with all the APIs than you can do with the UPS built-in integration.
Yeah, the UPS has a software called WorldShip, and
Right.
you know, it generally does things well. The FileMaker solutions in NRG actually talks directly to the database in Atlanta for them, whereas the WorldShip actually just does batches at the end of the day. It's kind of interesting that you get more power out of FileMaker, but they actually refer people to these FileMaker solutions, which is interesting. So anyway, NRG.
FedEx introduced their FedEx Ship Manager. I'm the person who discovered that they didn't have zeros in front of the days and the months. So November 1st and January 11th were obviously the same thing. They fixed that quickly.
Details. So anyway, but Postman is a tool that you can go out and do requests, and it'll return you know, your responses. Be aware that APIs are all different. The most common format for responses is called JSON. Hopefully, if you're a FileMaker developer, you've at least heard of JSON, but is it a formatting language? But it's not the only one. The other common one out there is XML. So just be aware that you will get a combination of those out there. But the neat thing about FileMaker is we have tools built in to handle JSON. If you look over here on the right, that's JSON. So, and we have tools right in FileMaker to parse that information out very quickly. So that is very good. So anyway, we got the documentation, we have APIs out there, and we've got a simple need. We don't need to do the whole robust thing. So if you want in other words, if you want the whole robust thing, you go to NRG. But if you just want the templates that are free from my webpage, you can get these templates. This is my webpage, tms.us. You click on the contact us, and it comes over here, and there are a bunch of templates. Here's the FedEx one, UPS one is down here, UPS is right here, and you can just click on them and download them. Doesn't cost you anything, and that's a free way to get going for doing the tracking. And I'm going to show you what, if you were to download, I'm going to show you these templates right
Domino.
here.
Domino, be quiet.
What? Hello.
Dude, sorry. Tell my dog to be quiet.
Oh, okay. I was like, what did I say wrong? Okay. So here's some templates here. There's some other ones if you want to play with them, but we're just going to look at the parcel shipment stuff today. There's the PUG webpage. And we're going to come back over here, and we're going to go over to FileMaker. And here are the two templates that we popped up in FileMaker, and they look very similar. And basically, they are just a FileMaker template that takes those same things, and each of them has a script, and a script that makes the call to the appropriate shipment place. You have to, now, before you're going to do this, all of these APIs require credentials. Both of these will allow you to get credentials for free, these two companies, but some APIs cost money to use. So just be aware, getting authentication is always an issue. Even the free ones almost always require authentication. It used to be that a lot of free ones, you didn't have to register and you just, get a token and you didn't have to do anything to make the call. But most all of them in the last year or two, have pretty much gone to where you got to get, even if it's free, you got to register so they know who you were. And I'm sure it's for marketing reasons, but anyway, get used to getting a username and a password, and you're going to make a URL call. Here's where we're making building a URL, and then we're going to come down here. We're going to build content, and we're going to do what's called a post to get a credentials. And let me move my stuff. Come over here. Go down. There we go. Here's our insert from URL. This is our big magical FileMaker step right here. This is where you specify the target. So the target is going to be either a field or a variable. I always like to do a variable, but you can save the results directly to a variable. And I like to just call it result because I'm saving a result. And you specify the URL. I've built it as a variable. So you'll see the variable $URL was up here. In this case here, it lets you know what it's building. FYI, you can do either, a lot of these APIs will have both a sandbox and or test server, and then they'll have a production server. So you spend time over in the test one, and then when you get it working right, you move over to the production one, and it's the only difference is the URL is slightly different. And then you have to, so you provide the URL, and then you also have to provide some content. So here's your content, which is also a variable in my case, but you could have spelled it out there. But the content in this case here looks like this. So we're doing a post. We have various headers in here, and everyone has different rules on what these headers, but a common one is content type is application/JSON. Every API you go to, you have to look at what they want for their headers. So every one of these is different, but you will see the header parts all begin with -- header or the shortcut -H, and then -D is for data, or you could put -- data, and then you provide whatever data I provided as a variable, and you have to put quotes around it. And that is the content based on the instructions in the API that you give things to. Obviously, you have to spend a little time testing those around. But anyway, once you get it working once, then you're ready for it to go out and test it. And we're going to give some tests right here. So basically, what we have is I've created where you can put your username in and your password and your token, and it will run this response out there. We can put a tracking number in here. And when you put it out, what it does is it returns, here's the JSON that comes right back from that script step, that runs when you click this right here. It returns a whole bunch of JSON here. And you can see basically it tracks everything from each location. In other words, the original shipment to the warehouse, to the next transit location, to whatever. All of that gets documented in the JSON here. So what you'll really find out is this almost always, you're just wanting to know, has it been delivered and what's the latest location it's at. So it will tell you those things when you get your inquiry. So you get your result here. It tells you each of the locations it was at. So your first location almost always is where it started off at. And then if you get down to your last location, that's where it is right now. They even give all kinds of comments like the receiver will not be available for delivery. We'll make a second attempt the next day. So you can see if they tried to deliver it and it didn't get delivered. And you can parse all of that out with your JSON. And so hopefully you're a little bit familiar with the data viewer, and you can go play with that and then figure out how to push that information into your solution that you're customizing for your client. So you're going to get the results back are always in some type of, hopefully JSON, because FileMaker does JSON, but it might be something else. But if we get our result, we can go to our data viewer and we can say evaluate and say, here's our response. And then we can start parsing things further. So we can say, I just want the response dot response status. Then if I do this, we're just going to get the status. Apparently did something wrong. Here's our first one. Here's my F1 and F2s for Michael Wallace. So
Yes, we love that.
let's see. I think the response is,
The first element is track response.
Oh, track response. Yeah, there we go. By the way, also, in case you don't know, JSON is case sensitive. So if you don't get the case right, it'll also get you wrong. So watch out for that. So here's our track response. And then I guess then it was response. And of course, as you notice, it's, it doesn't format it nice and neatly. So of course you can then always tell it, for that part of it, JSON format response F2, then we can make the same thing pretty with the JSON format elements. But anyway, you can parse your way down in here, and you can use the while loops to go through and go through all the different shipment locations and find out where things are and what you want. Just realize the first and last things are going to be the most pertinent. So if we go down to the bottom of it here, here's our last activity location. It's a receiver, or maybe it's the first one. Maybe it works the other way. Here's the original scan. Oh, it goes up the other way. So the most recent is at the top. Okay, most recent. It looks like it was signed for by someone named Edwards at this location. So if you get the first activity in here, it will tell you, where it's been delivered. And then you can use your JSON tools up here to store that back into your FileMaker solution to let your client know, has this been delivered and who signed by it and when it was delivered. Even down to the time, it gives you the time. So very useful for integrating into your solution. But obviously it comes back as JSON, so you're going to have to learn a little bit about JSON to parse these things out. And this, of course, is the example of UPS. We're going to go over and look at the same thing in FedEx. So here's FedEx doing the same thing here. And here it returns JSON. It's, using the same JSON language, but it's all different. They call their fields different names. Nothing is the same between the two companies. So don't expect anything, to be the same. So you will have to write out and parse it out differently for FedEx from UPS, as well as anybody else you get. But as you can see here, it lists everything about where the package is. Here we've got our package dimensions here and weights, and we got it in kilograms and pounds. What do you know? So all of this information comes back, and it comes back really fast. Their servers are really fast at returning this information. Some of the fastest servers I know out there for getting all of this. But then it's your job, once you got the JSON back, to go then integrate it into your software. But if you just need the script that will do that for you, here's the script right here. in this template. So it's a free template for you to copy the script and make use of right on the web page there. So anyway, any questions about the simple tracking parts of parcel shipment tracking here? Everybody asleep? I put everybody to sleep. Hello.
So Taylor, the authentication for getting on to FedEx, are they using OAuth or using another method? Can you dive into that a little bit more? Because to me, that's always been the challenge with these different APIs is how the authentication works.
Right. These are both OAuth, but there are different ways to do it. And so if you come in here, here is where the OAuth is being done here. It's using a post. And so here's where they're logging in. By the way, if you want to get a good chuckle, when you're going to the UPS website and you're making this call, does that ring a bell to anybody in the FileMaker community?
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that's going way back.
Yeah, well, it's in there. They still call it it was when it was using FileMaker's lasso back from the way whatever. Anyway.
wow.
So anyway, let me cover that back up. But yes, so you have to, first of all, because it's OAuth, that means you have to have your credentials and you have to submit those credentials to them. And then they return a token to you and you use that token as a bearer to make all requests. And that token will expire after a while. A lot of them are like 15 or 30 minutes long. And when it expires, you have to go get another token. And so these tokens continually expire. And so a lot of making this work was you have to first get your credentialing right, because if you don't get the token, you can't make any of your tracking request information. And so, yes, that is all right in here also. Good question, Scott. Any other questions out there? So think of that as a two-step process. You make a URL request for the to get a token, and then you make a request for the tracking information. So everything is a two-step step. By the way, if you're not familiar with the FileMaker API, it works the same way. So if you've done anything with it, it works right along the same lines. Another thing that I also started out is, well, if I got to get a token, I might as well just ask the token every time. And so I made all my requests every time, ask for a token, get a new token every time. You'll find out the systems don't like that. So if you keep trying to get tokens over and over with one request, it will start spitting back errors. So basically you do need to get a token, and then you keep using that token until it expires, which means you have to keep testing that the token is working. And when you get a failure, then know to get a new token at it. So just adds a little bit to the looping scripts in there to do things. Don't do like I did, where I just said, well, I'll just get a token every time, and that didn't work. So
To kind of add to that, Taylor, some of them have data limits, not data, but refresh limits, so that they only whatever, 2 a second or something like that. And so you need to make sure you compensate for that in your calls when you're doing a repetitive loop.
yes, you do, but both of these have fairly ridiculously one, like FedEx, I looked up yesterday on their test, their non-production one, so their slower server, they gave me a warning that I could not ask for more than 30,000 requests in 2 seconds. Okay, FileMaker's not going to go that fast. So,
Yeah, again, some other areas like Shopify, I think there's just like 40 or 20.
Yeah,
and so
other APIs will be very different.
Walk through
yes.
the entire catalog of products, loop through a catalog of products, you can get there quickly.
Yes, so be aware of that, and that's why every API, you have to read the documentation because they're all different and they all have different limitations. And some of them will charge you per request. So every request you're ringing up a fee. Like for example, a common one I use is, using for SMS token stuff, I use the Twilio one. Every one costs, what, 0.075 cents or something. So, every time you make a request, cha-ching. So any other wonderful, exciting comments? Okay, well, I think we're slowly getting to an end here, and hopefully I haven't bored you guys too much, but just a reminder, if you want to go to my webpage, you can download those templates for free. They're a good starting point. If you really want to get into a full solution for a customer where they can create packages, they can have FileMaker talk to the scales, talk to the Zebra printers, to do the whole packaging thing, look at NRG Soft. They're a great company that offers a whole solution, but they charge you, it's like 35 bucks a month or something. It's not outlandish, but yes, they do charge for it. But if you just need, your customer just says, I just want to know if my shipments are being tracked, and when they're delivered, go get these templates. They're free off my website, and you can easily integrate them into your software, and they're a good way to get around. Okay, FMPUG, this is going to be closing our December meeting. Thanks for all of you being here. Next month, we're going to have mapping and charting. Well, let's see. No, what is that? I'm looking at the wrong thing. FMHAM, a free security module that Robert Nod is going to teach us about. Robert, are you here with us? I don't think he is, but anyway. Yeah, that'll be interesting to kick the year off January 7th, see what he has to do with his security module that he does stuff with. So anyway, come back next month and join us, and we look forward to seeing you there. And I wish you guys happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and whatever else is out there. Take care, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording now. So if I can find the recording, let's see. Where's
I'm still on my meeting.
Oh. Where? Stop screen share.